Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. We'll call to order the January 4th, 2023 Select Board meeting to order. For the agenda, there's one change. In number 6, Select Board reports and comments. The review, the strategic plan updates can be moved to next week. The information in the packet wasn't really available till today, yesterday, so we moved it to next week so people have time to look at it, us included. Okay, Libby?
Okay, we've got committee vacancy announcement. We have 3 vacancies on the Council on Aging. The seats expire a little bit differently. 1 expires in 2023 and 2 expire in 2025. The vacancies will be advertised this week and next. The deadline for applications is January 18th at noon. The names will be read at the board's meeting on January 25th and February 1st. And on February 8th, applicants can introduce themselves and committee appointments will be made. The Select Board's annual public hearing on the upcoming general fund budget is scheduled for Wednesday, January 11th, next week at 5:30 here in this room. And that is it.
Thank you, Libby. Any Select Board announcements and comments to start? Brooke?
Housing Nantucket has released the new numbers for the Covenant program for 2023. And the new maximum sales price is $767,511, down from $963,867. And that's a function of interest rate rise and the calculation of the affordable mortgage payment. So the interest rate calculation has gone from 3.38% last year to 6.25% this year. And so the other pieces of information are that the maximum household income is $204,150 to qualify for the Covenant program in 2023. And the unrestricted asset limit is $383,756 to qualify for the Covenant program in 2023. So it's a significant change, and Housing Nantucket has done a release on this that should be available on their website with a lot more details.
Thank you, Brooke. Anyone else?
I know we can't really talk about it, but that's interesting. It is doing what it's supposed to do, though. Which is it's supposed to be affordable and be affordable based on the interest rates. There was some people that were saying it was getting unaffordable, but if it's dropping down, it's interesting. So.
Okay, there's no follow-up on comments from prior Select Board meetings. Is there any public comment here tonight that is not on the agenda? Excuse me. I have one hand up. Megan Perry. Oh, I'm sorry, Tucker. I didn't see him. We'll go to Megan Perry first.
Thank you, Jason. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
I kind of have a question, but I know we're not supposed to do back and forth. So maybe it's just an observation / question. I noticed that one of the contracts on here is for almost $5,000 for Arcadius to kind of oversee a workshop between Concom and the Select Board with regards to the NOI. And I was puzzled because the last independent counsel was capped at $10,000, and that independent counsel seemed to serve the Concom quite well, so much that their decision was upheld by a judge in the Superior Court with that independent counsel. That I was just curious: is it wiser to spend the funds on independent counsel for the Conservation Commission as they look at these legal matters, or are we spending $5,000 for a workshop to be done with an applicant in front of the commission that is I'm not sure that that's the wisest use of almost $5,000 versus allowing for independent counsel for the Conservation Commission. Again, I know I'm not supposed to go back and forth. I just was kind of looking at that in the agenda. So I guess it's a comment or a statement. So thank you for taking that.
Thank you, Megan. Those are good questions and comments.
We can always count on you, Megan, to put your own spin on it. Let me just leave it that way.
Yeah, thank you. Tucker?
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to remind folks about the lottery, which Richmond Development is holding coming up here. This is for a series of 20 units of AMI restricted rental apartments, the first of which are scheduled to be available for initial occupancy in February of 2023. There will be 6 units restricted at the 70% AMI level, 2 at the 80% level, 6 at 110%, and 6 at 120%. Applications are due in by February 6th in order to be considered for the lottery. So please reach out to the Housing Office or the Affordable Housing Trust or directly to Richmond if you would like an application or have questions. Thank you.
So Brooke, I'm sure you know this. This is apartments, or this is to rent a house, or?
These are apartments in
Apartments.
what we call the Violet Place
okay.
Acceleration Program, that we added some additional deed restricted units.
Yep.
And they are at AMI levels that reflect the pool of applicants that have come through to Richmond. So they used the financial data of the people who had applied to set these income levels at a bit of a range based on the applicants that they're seeing, applications they're seeing come across to them. So they're tailoring it a little bit to the demand in the community, which I think is really interesting. But these are rental units, rental apartments.
Any other public comment tonight that's not on the agenda? Okay, there's no new business that I know of. Is there approval of minutes and the payroll warrants and treasury warrants?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call. Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And Jason, aye. That passes 5-0, unanimous. Pending contracts, any questions or anything you might like to ask about? Matt?
Yeah, what's the 3,600 residence flooring? That seemed 156,000 to, it sounds like paint a floor. It sounds like, maybe I'm wrong. It was for R. Mullen Associates for the police department out at the Low Beach Road.
It's the removal of flooring as a result of asbestos mitigation. All the floors are currently bare and uneven concrete. The contract on the agenda involves the sealing of the floors and the application of a resinous floor finishing system. This was the only bid.
Right. So this is, again, I did something similar myself in my employee housing, and then it was nowhere near $150,000. And I'm guessing this is a 2-part sort of epoxy thing that's going to fill and cover the whole thing and be impervious, et cetera, and last a long time. It's similar to what people put in garages, is my guess. But
Well, yours might be less of an area. This is quite a large area.
mine's about half of this area, and I deal with it anyway. So I get worried sometimes that things that we as a community or as employees used to be able to do, the maintenance we used to do, et cetera, for $5,000, buy the paint and roll the paint, is now unfortunately being put out to bid and being many multiples of more than it used to be. And I don't know, we have to find a way to get control of that, because it's not sustainable. We can't, anyway, I just think that we have to find a way to be a little more thrifty.
Well,
Is that person agreeing with me or not?
I think they're agreeing. That went through an RFP process, right, at that amount? So we
It
probably
was-
picked the lowest bid.
it was the lowest and only.
Okay.
Right, and my point is anyway, you know it.
Yeah.
I mean, not to go on about it, but, and I hear what you're saying, Matt, but this is specialized work that involves a municipal building that has issues with it. And if we were going to try to have like a town maintenance department do it, then, I mean, we know that we don't have anywhere near the staffing and the expertise we need to have a full-on facilities maintenance division within the
No,
town.
and things like the removal of the asbestos and all that, I get 100%. But, and again, if we were housing enough people, then we would have hopefully we would have bodies that could go and, and put the two-part epoxy, et cetera, and roll it on the floor for a lot less than $150,000. And that's my only point, is that we are, as a town, there's things like this that we don't see are costing everybody, all of us, more, but they are. And this is a result of everything that's happening. So but it's kind of hidden. And so I'm just bringing it to light.
Thank you. Could we go to Deanne? Deanne, do you have a public comment or a question about the pending contracts?
Jason, I have a question about a pending contract.
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, Happy New Year to everyone as
Thank
we
you.
begin 2023. I'd like to refer on Exhibit 1 to the 1, 2, 3, the fourth item down, which is an amendment to an existing contract with Arcadis. And this amendment is in the amount of almost $5,000, $4,775 to facilitate a meeting between the Conservation Commission and the Select Board. And I would like the board to just give the public more information about what this is.
Thank you, Deanne.
Vince isn't out there, is he?
No, I don't see Vince on here. I think it's something that we could use if needed.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything planned for a facilitator.
No. I mean, the idea here is that there's been a joint meeting discussed between the Select Board and the Conservation Commission, and in order to focus it and make it productive with respect to this particular project, Arcadis is intended to engage them to help provide information and facilitate as necessary to, again, have a productive meeting. I also note that we mistakenly have a wrong date on there. It says January 5th, 2022. It should say 2020. Actually, maybe probably should say 2023. Actually, scratch that. The original contract was 2022.
Yeah. So I think that's it.
Yeah, there was probably other associated, it's not just facilitating at a meeting, there's gathering of information, preparation of information, presentation.
Thank you, Libby. Any other questions on?
Move approval of pending contracts.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call? Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm? Matt?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And Jason, aye. Thank you. That passes. Consent items, gift acceptance, Our Island Home, Human Services for the Salt Marsh Senior Center. Sure. Thank you, Brooke.
So the gift acceptances before us are a gift of $150 from Maureen Glowacki for Our Island Home. And for the Human Services Department for the Salt Marsh Senior Center, $100 from Dory Swope, $100 from Karen Matland and James Langlois. Sorry if I butchered that. $75 from James and Alice Breed, $150 from Clara Urban, and $500 from the Mass Council on Aging. And so I would move to accept all gifts for their designated purposes with a note of thanks to the donors.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm, Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Jason, aye. That passes unanimously. All right, next up is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing to consider an application for change of classification from seasonal to annual all alcohol beverage restaurant license for Surfside Smokehouse, DBA Backyard Barbecue. Hi, Amy.
Hi, thank you. So yes, this is a simple amendment to Backyard Barbecue's license. They currently are the class being seasonal, which, as we know, means that they are only allowed to serve between April the 1st and January the 15th. They're requesting to be moved to an annual class license. A couple of things have come up. There's fewer options obviously available. They want to be open for things like Super Bowl and other types of events like that. As long as it's not flooded down there. They certainly have flooding issues during the winter, but wanted more opportunities to be open during that off-season period. They are, what I'd say is, they meet all the requirements. We have no objections to that. And they are probably, if not the most, one of the seasonals that is actually open from April the 1st to January the 15th most years. They're open more than some annuals, I think, at this point. So we definitely request approval. We think it would be a good addition for them to be able to be open. And again, thank you for allowing the hearing this evening. We just wanted to do it as quick as possible so that they have the opportunity to be approved before Super Bowl and before it expires on the 15th.
Right, and they have to wait till the state approves it. So we approve it
Correct.
here, then goes to the state. So it could
Correct.
be done.
We'll request and tell the
Yeah.
state that's what the reasoning is for. So hopefully they'll have that opportunity.
Great. This is a public hearing. Any comments from the public or board members? I think that's from Dan. You have your hand up. Would you like to talk on this public hearing?
No, I'm sorry, Jason. I'll lower it.
It's Rick's fault.
Rick, we heard you in the background.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Don. Pleasure of the board. Oh, sorry.
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you. Roll call. Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm, Matt,
Aye.
Don.
Aye.
Jason, aye.
While we have one quick, Amy here,
Yeah.
one quick question. I know there's sort of, you said, oh, they're open more than some people who are year round
Right.
and et cetera. I remember back in the old days, the Restaurant Association used to time it and make sure that
Right.
there was always coverage. There was downtown, there was a breakfast place and a low price and a medium and a high, and out of town, they did the same thing. So
we
that,
talk about this all the time.
I know you do. And so that's why I'm bringing it up for the
Yeah,
public.
no, absolutely.
We've sort of lost our way a little bit on it, and we have to figure out what are the
Yeah.
incentives because part of what happens when people come in and just scoop the gravy, then the people who used to be here year round all the time, they are really hurt. Those are the big weekends that they were counting on to get them through
Right.
the whole winter. And so the board used to be stricter, and the town used to be stricter, and
Right.
the restaurants themselves did a better job of the policing themselves.
Right.
And you have talked about getting some ideas to get back to
Yeah.
that a little bit.
I can tell you kind of
Yeah.
briefly what's been talked about, and
Yeah.
certainly the pandemic threw things into a whole bit of a tizzy. So there's a couple different things, and I went back and forth on this prior to the pandemic, and I thought, well, can we do something where, because on Nantucket, some of these things don't apply or work. So I said, can we just make them all annual, and then we deal with different layers or different levels of cost for the, that sort of thing. Legal and all that came back and said, well, it'd be a home rule petition thing, and we don't want to keep going down that road. So what I think my understanding is, if I look at the law correctly, that the seasonal law says that it's from April 1st to January 15th or November 30th or any portion thereof. If we look to further restrict seasonal to be to that very short period for people who are open a short time, that might be the better way to go. Because some businesses, again, it depends on the year. I have some businesses, proprietors one year came in March and said, hey, we have people here. Can we open? Well, you can, but not with alcohol. Okay, so we want to be able to have those opportunities for those years when they can do it and have more flexibility. So legally, I think that might be the way we go. Recently, I had a very long conversation. I've been talking with Linda up in Provincetown, who handles they're the closest to, because the Vineyard doesn't have that many, and they're all 5 different towns. Provincetown is remote. They have 80 licenses. We have 100. There's a split down the middle. They had the same exact problem. They have some, ability to enforce it, but they say they don't. They say, what are we going to do? Like, especially now when half the people, the managers or the owners, are running the places themselves. They don't have staff. I had to go around and get payments on the 31st because they're all running the restaurant and couldn't come in. So we're kind of dealing with that and trying to see how it works out. I've tried to work with a lot of the younger kids coming in to these restaurants and say, it behooves you all to get together because you're more powerful working together to affect change in your industry. So I've had that conversation with a lot of these guys. Fortunately, a lot of them are expanding out to Boston and other areas. So we have a lot of things working together, but I think there might be some ways we can attack it. But again, a lot of these other towns like Provincetown and others are having the same problem. And we do have, we did vote in some fees for those that are closed for longer than 60 days. We haven't enacted those fees just yet because we're trying to see how this post-pandemic world works. But I would say that's going to be probably my recommendation, to further define seasonal and to allow for that so that they can maybe work together to do that. So it is most definitely an active conversation. We're trying to come up with some solutions.
Yeah, because
for that.
in the old days, you used to have to, sort of put a letter into the select board to say, I'm closing. And
They are. They're still doing
they
that.
do that, but it's, yeah.
Correct. They're still doing that. But again, we're trying not to be heavy-handed, understanding what's going on across the board for all of us. But there is effort to be open. The New Owners of Brotherhood are trying, and other places are trying to do that. So it is being worked on. I assure you, we're trying to. But we do tell them about when there was an association. So we're trying to get that, and the chamber's helping as well. So we hope to get something together.
Yeah, that's good. And I don't want to be heavy-handed and make it harder.
No,
but my
no.
point, though, sometimes is the ones that really want to stay and used to be able to can't, because they have some key weekend scooped from them. And so you've got this difficult, this push and pulling as a community. It's, when we have people that still visit during the off season and come on some of these weekends and they show up. And one of the biggest complaints I had before I closed, we're running as long as we were run, but the biggest complaint I had is nobody's opened. There's nothing here. We come out and there's nothing here. And what's going on? And this, and it's very different than it was even 10 years ago. And I'm in the industry and I understand why, hiring, and there's a lot of pressure, and I'm hearing rumors that people are struggling already for next summer to staff, et cetera. So I understand the issues. So, how can we, sort of, rather than hurt some people, that like you're doing is probably a good idea, is to, sort of reward the ones that are staying open and slogging it out.
Right. We started that with the last fee increase, and I think we're just trying to we have so much turnover and so many new people coming in, trying to get them together from the start. And a lot of them work together coming up in the industry. Obviously, a lot of people used to stay open in the winter, even though they were at a loss, to keep their staff. Sort of Situation Town and other places did that. But it's becoming harder and harder for them to do. So we certainly continue the conversation and see
the other difficulty is if you don't keep a staff, then it's even harder to reopen.
Right.
You're trying to get people to come back. And so there's a catch-22 for the businesses. It's really difficult. And,
it's helpful when you have some of them that have multiple businesses under one ownership. So, but we have a lot of change coming up, a lot of things turning over. So a lot to do, and I'll be back more often.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks, Matt. Yes.
Should we move? Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I want to say two things. I want to say congratulations on finally executing that house move for your employee housing to the applicants, and to move approval.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call? Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Jason, aye. That passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Amy. Town managers report.
First off, we have a review of Sankaty Road and Coffin Street. This is an intersection area which has been a safety concern for some time. The town recently engaged Greenman Peterson Inc., GPI, an engineering firm, to present design alternatives, to prepare design alternatives for improvement. DPW directors here, as well as John Osorio of GPI. They're going to get through a presentation with you of the options reviewed and I believe there's a recommendation. Stephen, do you want to take us through, or is John going to do it? I guess you're going to.
Oh, no, I'll be down taking us through if that's, and I see John's available, so that's good. Sankaty Coffin has been a source of concern for some time now. And right now, with our assessment, we note issues with what we have here: site, poor pavement, and trees in the center. But even though it's aesthetically pleasing, we still have some safety concerns. Next slide, please. It may be a little bit easier to see from this point of view. Coming from the north, going on to Coffin, is sloped in a way where it allows for traffic to keep moving forward at a consistent rate of speed or even increased speed, while there's pedestrian traffic within the neighborhood. It's not really obvious on that picture, but you may be able to see the hedge in the upper left. Yes, thank you. That's a blind spot right there. Also with that slope, people turning into the property and are continuing to move closer and closer to that hedge, tearing away at that property. We've had some concerns about going from Coffin into Shell, but not this. The main concern was from the north going to the west. Next slide, please. And this is a different viewpoint. I know this might not, you may not be able to see everything here, but some of the rough areas with the deterioration here strictly from some of the larger vehicles coming through. The picture on top, I wasn't able to get the proper angle. I should have gone take another picture, but it is deeply rutted on that corner going toward the hedge. Next slide, please. So we have two alternatives. One is it really addresses the movement from the north going to the west, and the second alternative addresses not just that movement, but is also from Coffin to Shell Street. Next slide, please. The estimated range for the work with these here, not including trees, tree removal, if we have to do tree removal, is approximately $140,000 to $175,000. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the first alternative. We have two slides for each alternative. The passenger vehicle, it'll be a nice smooth transition. This is not a perfect T, but the visibility has increased and it'll force vehicles coming from the north to slow down going into the neighborhood. Now, the SU30, that's, you probably have already seen that terminology before, just means a load-bearing vehicle of that size, relative size. The vehicle will have to go into the other lane to some degree while making the turn, and then correct itself and go into the appropriate lane. Next slide, please. Now, this is the second alternative. This is the one that I would recommend to the board, because it not only slows down north to west movement, but it also forces people leaving Coffin to take some extra time to make that turn going into Shell, and adds for more visibility. So as they're turning, they can see more. Next slide, please. And this is the red and blue lines there. I don't know if you can actually see from where you are, but it shows that with the larger vehicles, there will be some crossover, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, no worries. And if you have any questions, or John, if you care to elaborate on anything in particular.
Steve, I think you covered it well. The primary concern that we saw at this location is really safety related, speeds, as you mentioned, coming from the north off of Sankaty Road onto Coffin. That channelized right just allows for higher speeds than desired. And then sight distance at all these movements, Sankaty to Coffin and Coffin from Shell is extremely poor sight distance. So that was the reasoning for the second alternative that tried to improve some of those constraints.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Any questions or comments? I think this is great. It's a very significant safety improvement for that intersection.
Yeah, no, I agree on number 2, and I think you may, if you're looking at that, the sight lines might be such that you'll be able to keep 2 or 3 of those trees. They may, I think you may find, maybe they have to be cut to eye level or something. But I think that, the first one I could see where you might not be able to because you'd be out there and looking through the trunks. But the other one, it looks like your nose would be out a little further. So.
No, we will make every effort to keep the trees where, keep the trees where they are for what we can do with it. Because I know we have to answer to the town and we have to answer to Dale, so.
Yeah, you want to keep Dale happy.
Erica?
I was just wondering if any of the trees that had to be moved, if they have to get removed, will they be saved and moved to the new location noted in alternate 3? Or would they be new planting?
I haven't done the review with Dale, but that is what we're discussing. We want to save the trees. We want to move them, relocate them if possible. We haven't done a health check on the trees yet. And we have discussed it with Sconset Civic League as to possibly considering replacing the trees if the trees need to be moved. But we're going to make every effort to keep the trees there for what we can. If any trees need to be moved, we will come back and bring and present the solutions that we suggest. I don't see us removing all 3, but it's possible based on the root system that we may have to remove 1 or 2 of them.
I believe this is just an update, right? You don't need approval. It's just a discussion.
We were actually looking for your endorsement of one of the designs so that we can proceed to complete it and get it in the works to be completed hopefully before summer.
How does the board feel about alternative 2, what was recommended?
Yes.
That's what I would support.
Okay.
Just looking at the cost. Yeah. Just looking at the cost, it seems we ought to have them do the floor. This is $156,000 for a floor and $140,000 to do significant road work. So maybe you can do the same for that.
Do the floor on the way out to do that.
No, I wish I could help, but I'll stick with the DPW side.
I used to sand and do floors as a youth, so maybe I should have bid.
Is that fine? You have consensus? You need a motion? Is that okay? That'd be.
Yeah, which alternative?
Yeah, alternative 2.
Number 2?
Yep.
Got it.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Thank you, John.
The next item is continued review of town-sponsored warrant articles for the 2023 annual town meeting and/or ballot questions. There isn't much of a change since last week. This has been kind of a recurring item in the event that the board wants to have any discussion about warrant articles. At this point, we are in the process of putting the warrant together. I hope to have a draft for your review at your meeting next week, and you are scheduled currently to adopt the warrant the following week.
Any comments or questions on warrant? Brooke?
I just want to make sure that language change for the Affordable Housing Trust declaration is included. I didn't read it in detail, but I just want to confirm.
Yeah, I don't know if I have, I don't know that I have the actual language yet, but it is in the list.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, select board reports, comments. We moved the review, the first one, review strategic plan update, to next week. So any committee reports or comments? Nothing?
No,
Nothing? Well, because It's only 6:04, only about a half hour. I have a poem to read. Okay. Not just any poem. This was a poem that was generated by artificial intelligence. So Chat GPT is the big hot item right now, where you can go in and instruct it to write a press release, write a marketing plan, and it does it within seconds. So I was curious, so I signed up and I just did a couple of things. So yesterday I asked it to write, this is exactly what I wrote. Write a poem about the Nantucket Select Board. That's all I wrote. And this is what it came up with 3 seconds. To the Nantucket Select Board, a group most fair, their meetings long, but they persevere. A little rough there. Oh, John, the leader of this noble crew, his thoughts and words ever true and true. And Catherine, fair lady of the board, her wisdom and grace never ignored. Matt, a man of reason and might, his voice a beacon in the darkest night. But alas, poor Bill, last to speak, his words often missed a sad fate most bleak. But still he persists with a heart full of cheer, determined to make his voice loud and clear. So here's to the Nantucket Select Board. May their meetings always be well adored, for they work tirelessly day and night to make sure everything on the island runs right.
That
So-
could be your town report.
Could be the town report. Thank you, Erica.
Wow.
Apparently, it didn't read the current list of select board members.
No,
Yeah, no, but that's what, I mean, I did a second one and it actually said something about, used Matt's name and something about the off season. So like it pulled the nuances of Nantucket within seconds. It's
It's clever.
worlds are changing. So it was a short meeting. I thought I'd read a poem.
Want me to read a poem from a human
Sure.
that I sent out? Requiem Nantucket. This is from John Devaney this fall. Hear the roar of barons in their charters landing on the clamshell drives. See their cleaners' vacuums surfing up and down the halls. Gardeners clipping, painters chipping, landscapers chewing down the pines. Rodeoing dozers whose yawning tines carve out tubs and pools and courts inches from the sea. Developers and realtor selectmen, knights errant for these lords. Our gazette, as old as whaling, is now brochure for housing unaffordable. Lures ashore more upstart founders and algorithmic princes. On the lawn, the trembling deer gaze into me and ask, what comes now? Where go? What left? So there's a human perspective.
Much better.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. And I was channeling, I was going to read it like a couple months ago, channeling Steve Bender, and then I didn't. But I figured you gave me the opening.
Thank you, Matt. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call. Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Jason, aye. Thanks, everyone.